Hi everybody, I'm Bill Whittle, and this is the Firewall. Well, this election year is getting ugly, and it's going to get uglier. There have been several massive disruptions, both inside and outside of Donald Trump rallies, and more are promised. Let's just get one thing out of the way right at the top. This isn't about Donald Trump. I find some of his rhetoric alarming to say the least, but the left, which means the iron triangle of cry-bully revolutionary wannabes, billionaire agitators, and socialism-loving politicians, formerly called community organizers, formerly called race-baiting agitators, like Obama's terrorist buddy Bill Ayers, they're the ones that have created this mess. This upsurge of American fascism that we're observing has nothing to do with Donald Trump, because this is what the left always does. They block with coercion, intimidation, or physical violence any viewpoint not in line with their murderous policies of total political mind control and inevitable economic ruin. I mean, what, after all, are Occupy Wall Street and Black Lives Matter if it's not just, little street muscle? Now, leftist apologists for these street actions, like take Rachel Maddow, for example, want us to believe that these violent incidents are the result of, and not the cause of, the disturbances at the Trump rallies. And that's because the one requirement for being a progressive is that anything that has ever happened only happened if it advances their warped agenda. Everything else goes in the dustbin of history. Hey, speaking of history, let's do a little recent history and then some less recent history. Left-wing protesters made up of Bernie Sanders supporters, Black Lives Matter thugs, public sector union muscle, and museum-grade idiots with tenure have done the following. On March 19, 2016, they attempted to stop drivers from attending a Donald Trump rally in Arizona, stopping traffic for 90 minutes and inconveniencing, and in fact imperiling, the lives of both those headed to the rally and those simply in a rush to get to their doctor's appointments or to pick up their kids after school. On March 12th, professional protester Thomas DiMassimo rushed the stage at a Trump event. He didn't like what Trump has to say, so in true progressive fashion, he determined to force his opinion on everyone else and make sure that they didn't get to hear it either. On March 11th, progressive rioted at a Trump rally in Chicago, and when Trump canceled it due to safety concerns, they celebrated their victory over opposing ideas by calling him a coward. But as I said, this violence is not about Trump. It's about the way they do business on the left. If this were just about Trump, then none of the rest of this would make any sense. On March 18th, gay conservative Milo Yiannopoulos was banned from speaking in San Francisco. No concrete reason was given. Milo speculates that he was too gay for San Francisco to tolerate. On February 25th, Cal State students blocked the doors so that they or anyone else would not have to hear Ben Shapiro talk about campus bullying. Once inside the venue, the protesters activated the fire alarm. They also assaulted a disabled man, a liberal who it turns out, who simply wanted to hear what Shapiro had to say. On November 9th of last year, University of Missouri assistant fascist Melissa Click assaulted a student journalist, famously calling for some muscle to attack non-progressive reporters. On November 7th of 2015, Yale students disrupted a William F. Buckley event. One student was removed by force and several attendees were spat upon. Now look, you can see that at this rate, going just with the reported incidents of suppression, assault, and intimidation was going to take longer than a Fidel Castro speech. But it is interesting, isn't it, how the left will disrupt a peaceful expression of differing opinions with violence and then accuse the people holding those differing opinions of starting the whole thing. Basically, if you want to understand the modern left, it's pretty much something like this. Poke, 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 boom! Knock it off! Mom, Billy's hitting me! Sounds funny, but it's not, and it's not new either. In the 1920s and the 30s, the National Socialists had their own private army to disrupt meetings of those who supported the Weimar Republic or who dared to criticize Adolf Hitler. Now, there's no chance whatsoever, none whatsoever, that Hitler and the National Socialists, the Nazis, would have achieved power without the Sturmabteilung, or the SA, organized street thugs that silenced opposition voices through disruptions, street violence, ripping down opposition posters, and, a little murder here and there. The Chinese communists did it particularly well. That's where this term that the progressives are so proud of comes from, by the way, political correctness. It was a term used by Mao Zedong, who, having killed 50 million of his own people in the name of income inequality and free health care, encouraged cadres of wild-eyed students who beat, intimidated, humiliated, and eventually killed anyone who disagreed with their socialist utopia. So, What are they so afraid of, these progressive American fascists and their street muscle? Well, they're afraid of people like David Horowitz, whom they've disrupted, assaulted, or tried to assault at Butler University, Berkeley, Michigan, MIT, Princeton, and the University of Chicago. Also, Portland State, Texas, Indiana, UC Davis, the University of Washington, the University of Hawaii, University of Illinois, Delaware, UCLA, and San Francisco State. Also at Boston University, Harvard, Wisconsin, Arizona State, Bowling Green, North Carolina, Rhode Island, Purdue, Gonzaga University, the University of Pennsylvania, and the University of Missouri. Now, David Horowitz is an intellectual titan, and I ought to know because I work with him often, as I did on this segment, but physically, David's not a large man. So what are these young, healthy, 20-something students and their tenured fascist enablers so afraid of? Well, they're afraid to listen to our ideas because our ideas are better than their ideas, and they know it whether they face it or not. You know, you can't really blame these American fascists. Violence, disruption, riots, and chanting are pretty much all they've got. Conservatives love free speech, and we're ready to defend it with our lives because when it comes to the free exchange of ideas, we win and they lose. And both sides know it, which is why one side is for free speech and the other dismisses as hate speech any word, sentence, speech, or rally that threatens their goal of ensuring that the university becomes a place to go to perpetually close the human mind, and that political dissent be crushed with the same violence that these fascist bastards on the left have always employed. We need your help to keep these messages coming. If you want to help us make a difference, please go to billwhittle.com and become a member.